Welcome to the School Photo Podcast, the show where we dive into the world of school photography, innovation, and the future of capturing school memories. With me, your host, Lee Brooker, and guests, in each episode we'll explore the latest trends, challenges, and breakthroughs in the school photo industry. With funny stories from our schools to best business practices and some new innovation to help us all. Whether you're a large multinational company, a sole photographer, or you're just passionate about the evolution of school photos, this podcast is for you. Grab a cuppa, settle in, and let's get started. This is the School Photo Podcast. Happy days.
Today's inspiring episode of the School Photo Podcast, I'm thrilled to introduce our very first female guest, and what a guest she is. Mags is the powerhouse behind multiple photography businesses across the UK, and she's now expanding into the US. She brings a vibrant, child-centred approach to nursery and school photography. A passion for storytelling through photos, a flair for innovation, and a deep understanding of what makes children shine in front of the camera is what truly sets her apart in the industry. In this episode, Mags shares her journey from photographing tiny tots in nurseries with entertainers and blurred natural backdrops to acquiring business with over 90 schools under her belt. Her insights on staff training, workflow efficiency, customer care and scaling are invaluable. It's an uplifting, idea-packed conversation that celebrates creativity, community and a relentless drive to make school photography more meaningful. Welcome back to another episode of the School Photo Podcast. Today is episode 7. It's my pleasure to be joined by Mags, who is the CEO of Bright Photography in the UK. Mags, how are you?
Hi, hello. Thank you so much for having me, Lee.
You're very welcome. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for getting involved. It's you're our first female guest. That's good.
Yes, I'm excited about that, actually.
That'll be there forever. Tell us then, Mags, tell us your story. What's the situation with your businesses and with everything you do?
Well, I do a bit of everything. I have 3 businesses running at the moment, 2 of them in the UK.
Okay.
And one of them is focusing on nurseries, and the other one is focusing a bit more on schools.
Okay.
And the third one is just about to start in the US, so that's exciting.
Oh wow, fantastic. So you've set 2 different businesses up, have you? One for schools, one for nurseries.
That's correct, yes.
Tell me about that. What's the reasoning and what's that about?
The identities of them both are really, really different. So the Bright side is a more bespoke type of nursery photography.
Okay.
And we photograph, for example, shooting at 1.8, which is really hard with babies moving.
Yeah.
And we work with a photographer and an entertainer to get amazing smiles.
Okay.
We don't use an actual photographic background. We use the background of the nursery and blur it out.
Oh, I love that.
It looks like sparkles of color. So, yeah.
So all those web pictures on your website I was looking at yesterday, they're not in front of a background, most of them, no? They are.
Well, I'm not. We have several websites, so I don't know which one you went to. If you went to the one on Bright, no, that is primaries. But if you go to the Bright site, that is actually no background. It's actually the nursery. This is really cool.
Yeah, I love that. That's a very different way of doing nurseries, I think. I don't think there's many doing that.
No, not many.
So talk me through it then. What's a day look like in a nursery for you, and with an entertainer, and how does it work?
So normally you have to have a very good relationship with the nursery, and they have to know what to expect.
Okay.
And especially with little tiny ones, they run the day. So you have to adapt to each child as it goes.
Yeah.
We normally start with babies.
Okay.
Because they get tired faster, they start fussing, they need feeds, changing diapers.
Yeah.
So you have to really...
They're hard work, aren't they?
Pardon?
They're hard work.
Definitely. But because they're harder, when you do get the result, it's just so fulfilling. Yeah. So fulfilling. And we set up, and normally the setup takes a tiny bit longer because then again, you don't have a photographic background.
Okay.
So you need to find the right space and light it properly. So instead of looking like a messy nursery, it looks
beautiful,
more visually appealing.
Yes.
And you can add a bit of pops of color, and once they blur out, they look great.
So do you go to each child, or do you kind of set up in each room for them to come to you?
Normally I set up once, and I try to be set up in a room that the kids are normally in.
Okay.
So they're used to it, especially the little ones, because
Yeah.
if you move babies from their normal room, for example, to preschool, it's too much noise for them.
Yep.
And they get a bit stressed out. And at the same time, it's really nice to have several kids coming to you at the same time.
Yes.
So you can do something silly, start singing songs, start blowing bubbles.
Yeah.
And
Just relax
try to
them.
put the attention in all of them at the same time instead of
Yes.
one at a time until they warm up a bit to you.
Yeah, that's a brilliant tip, that, because once you can get a crowd of them, 3 or 4 or 5 of them all
Exactly.
relaxed together, they're not so worried about sitting in front of you then, are they? It's the
Exactly.
worst thing when they bring in one at a time and then they go out crying and then the next one has to come into that.
It just triggered them off. Absolutely right. Right.
And so you take with you an entertainer, do you?
Correct.
Take someone.
So that's part of the job. I shoot in high-speed sync as well.
Okay.
So the expression of the child changes really, really fast. It's not like in primary that they can just sit and they hold the pose for a few seconds and you have a chance to take 2 or 3 photos. A baby goes from really smiley to a funny pose. They don't really control their expression yet.
Yeah,
so
true.
It goes really fast. So if you're trying to engage with them and then you lift up your camera, focus and shoot, you lost the expression.
Yeah.
So you need an entertainer next to you to chat. But the entertainer almost works like a part of you, because if he works side by side, more than 5 centimeters away from you,
eyes are over there.
You can tell that the eyes are on the other person, not on the camera.
Yeah.
So normally the attention is either on a monkey or whatever. That monkey can jump around from your head to the camera to the entertainer, and once it's on you, that's when you click.
Yeah, I love that. Really good. Really good.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah. Okay. So how many pictures will you typically take and upload for the babies then?
Normally I shoot around 40 photos per kid, I have around 30 sent to the parents. So it's a completely different proposition.
Yeah.
The idea is to show you so many amazing pictures that you don't know which one to choose. You cannot say no, and you just download
all. Download all. Yeah.
It works.
Absolutely right. And are you happy to talk about the sort of prices and price points that you charge on?
Yes, normally we are a higher price point than the average.
Different service though, isn't it?
Yes, because it's more work, but at the same time I work with nurseries that are not interested in commission, which is another thing. Good. Which makes it way harder to start with, because if you go to a nursery and say, oh, we already have a photographer, oh, but we do this, oh, what you do, I really like, how much is your commission? Oh, no, we're not going to give you any. It's even harder. But that way you filter down nurseries that are really interested in giving a higher quality of photographers, just to give more value to the parents, not in actually getting money.
Yeah.
So even though it's harder to get clients to start with, once you have a reputation and they know the type of work that you do, you cannot go back to another photographer that gives a different type of service, because the parents are just used to this standard.
Yeah, I bet. And is the download all your biggest, most popular seller?
That is my most popular seller, yes.
Is it? Do you sell print packages as well, or?
I do. So you have individual downloads, download 10, download all, and then several packages. But normally, download all is the best seller, and also the most profitable one.
Yeah, well, absolutely they are, aren't they? You want, and presumably from that you then see images shared through social media and all the other stuff that's from your work.
The families actually started on their own to tag us on Instagram, and it's really good.
Yeah, that's great. It's so good for other parents to see your work that gets shared by parents that are happy, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is really good. The last 3 nurseries that booked us, we didn't even know who they were.
Okay.
And it was a parent that moved from a nursery that we used to do to this new one. And he was like, no, I don't want you a photographer. I want the old photographer. So they had to book us.
Well, when you can show the difference between the work that's being produced versus a standard white background, 3-pose nursery job, 6 poses, whatever it may be, it's difficult for them to argue with that, isn't it?
Exactly. It is. It is. The challenge then becomes in training staff, because it gets to a point when if your business is to center on your personality and you are the only one that can do the job, it can only grow to a certain point, and it gets to a point with your knees just cannot take it anymore.
Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right.
So the first challenge was to start to build up the business and getting the right staff trained to do the job the right way with a ideally standard that is even better than yours.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's exactly what we all want, isn't it? How many nurseries do you do at the moment?
At the moment, we have around 50.
Okay. And then are you doing most of those, or have you've got other freelancers?
I am doing none.
Okay.
At the moment, which
Love
is
that.
really, really good. Yeah.
Okay. So you've got staff that are they employed full time, or are you freelance?
I have freelancers still because a few of my freelancers work half the time with nurseries and the rest of the time with the schools.
Yeah, makes sense.
So that way, I try as much as possible to extend the times in which we're busy and try not to book many nurseries in September, October, November.
Yeah. And do you find that you're able to do that you're able to use the quieter times for nursery?
We have some stopover.
Bit of a crossover,
of 2 or 3 weeks, which are really busy.
Chaos.
In which we have 8 schools a week plus 5 nurseries all in the same week, which is absolutely nuts. But it's so far it's manageable. Yeah,
we've in May we've managed to put a number of our nurseries in SATS week and in the half term during May.
Exactly.
Because especially if you're in the private nurseries where they don't stop for half terms, they are golden times within the school photo world to get in there. And even so we're based in Essex, and sometimes Essex and Kent have different Easter holidays. So trying to cross over those. Yeah, trying to cross over those. I mean, it doesn't give everyone much of a break, but it does mean that the business keeps going.
We don't need breaks.
Christmas, summer.
Exactly.
So you've got your nursery stuff that you're doing, which is, from what I've seen online, looks fantastic. And
Thank you.
We'll have a little look. I'll put a couple of links to the website in the notes of the podcast as well, so anyone can go and check it out. And then you've created a new business or different business for the schools, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Hey.
So once I knew that nurseries were good, I made numbers in my head, and I thought, hey, if in a nursery you can do 50 to 100 kids, and then in a school you can do 200, 300, hey, let's get me some schools. However, schools is such a different ball game, absolutely different. The expectations are different, the timings are different. The value that the parents put on the photos is really different, and the child doesn't change much from year to year, so the purchasing habits are also different. A baby really changed in the nursery years, but in primary they don't change as much. Maybe they buy first year and year 6, and not so much in between. And getting schools from when I started was 2021.
Okay.
Starting getting schools. If you are no one in the industry, it's very hard to start.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, they have to buy into you at that initial conversation really quickly.
Correct.
And you need to find someone that's prepared to take a risk.
And I made a mistake that most photographers do to start, which is quality.
Yeah.
I can do better than the average, so let's do that. When that is not the game. The game is, even though you do want to maintain a high standard quality, volume is about workflow, not as much as giving the highest possible quality necessarily. It's just one of the things that you have to go through, especially when you really grow.
Yeah, and I think because we've got multiple customers, as in the school business manager that books us for schools, they want us done and in and out and efficient and perfect photographs, whereas the teachers want us done as quick as possible to get them back to phonics or maths or hit the curriculum they're working on.
Absolutely
And then the
right.
parents want us to spend as long as possible with each of their little darlings to make sure that every picture's perfect.
Yeah, exactly. Parents have no idea that sometimes we have less than 30 seconds per kid.
Yeah.
And they can, they'd be like, oh, 30 seconds. Okay.
Yeah, try that.
Exactly.
Comments on social media, I can do better with my iPhone. I'm like, you can, with an hour. And all your children
Come
at
with
home.
me. Give me a hand.
Yeah. Give me that pack of Haribo you used to treat them, and I bet they'll smile as well.
Exactly.
We've actually done that in the past. To be fair,
With Haribos.
No, not Haribos. No, we've got give me a hand. Where you said give me a hand. With one of our schools, they've got their PTA. They've all got PTA, but at the school, the PTA, they invite 2 parents to come in and help on photo day, and they get their photo packs for free. So they are the ones that are running around, and they're checking all the uniforms, and they're checking the hair, and making sure that every child's perfect.
That's a nice idea.
So 2 of the people from the PTA, they come in on photo day. They don't pay for their pictures because they get them for their children. We do that as a bit of a thanks for coming in. But it just gives a real boots on the ground feel for what happens.
That is brilliant for 2 reasons. One, it makes them a real feel of how hard we work.
Yeah.
And 2, you have an assistant on the day.
Because you do.
Yay.
Yeah. You get an advocate from within the parent community straight away. So someone's like, oh, you know what? I saw her come in and she wasn't very happy, but the photographer really worked hard. And it's free. It doesn't cost us anything. It gives them a couple of free packs. The school don't have to necessarily worry too much about it. And
it's someone that the kids know. So
yeah, I mean, I've said it. We've got one of our schools that does it. I don't know why I haven't pushed that everywhere else, but we're certainly going to look to do that.
What a bad idea.
Yeah,
so much.
That does work. But yeah, having where you use an entertainer in the nursery, just having other people to organise, because it's the stuff not in front of the camera, really, isn't it? It's the stuff that all goes on behind the background.
Absolutely.
When they're coming into the hall, we all know we've lost 15, 20 minutes at a time waiting for a class to turn up. So being able to have that class there straight away.
Kind of like crowd control.
It's exactly it, yeah. Yeah, like herding cats. It's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
If you can get the line controlled and you can help explain to the teachers what's happening. Do you use are you using one of the online systems, Got Photo and NetLife?
Yes, I'm in Got Photo.
Yeah. So do you use the QR codes or pre-read?
Yes, printed QR code.
Yeah. So we do exactly the same. But part of that process of just even handing out the QR codes to the children.
Yes.
Having
you need the help. You don't know the names, so you do need the help.
Yeah, having them there to do that really helps. One thing we've started to do it recently actually is we're holding the QR code, but we're getting the children's face behind it, the child's face behind it, just out of focus.
Okay. Yes.
Just so that when it comes to finishing the job at the end, if there's any queries or if there's a child that is on the wrong code, you can clearly see the one they've handed to you.
And does it still recognizes even though it doesn't show on the biggest part of the screen?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So we photograph it landscape, so we'll fill most of the screen with the QR code. There's just the child's head out of focus in the background.
Oh, fair enough.
Just so that we can identify and go, we can see what happened. The teacher handed it to the wrong Lucas, or it might be a case that the child put it down and they picked the wrong one up. Because it's very rare that it happens, but if we've just photographed it down, then there's no point of reference to say which child it's linked to. So that's been a little hack that we sort of found just to help our admin team in the office.
Exactly, just in case there's a crossover, which there are nightmares when it happens.
Yeah. So have you got people? Are you running the office side of it yourself? Have you got people that are?
Thankfully, the focus of last year was to try to automate as much as possible, because my challenge was I acquire a new business, and the majority of the schools were 2 hours away to 3 hours to where I live.
Okay.
So that presented the problem of, I can either drive 6 hours a day, which I did the first season.
Yeah, you do if you have to. Or,
it was tough. You can imagine what time did I have to wake up. Imagine that.
Yeah, that's not good. Yeah.
7 a.m. in school. I had to wake up like 3.
Wow.
Who needs sleep anyway? But then at some point I had to face the decision saying, okay, maybe my highest point of contribution was not being really sleepy and sleep deprived
Yeah.
in a school, but to actually manage the business and give my staff members what they need in order to do the job right,
Yeah.
and automate everything. So that's what I did. I
Okay.
have a brilliant person that takes care of the booking of the school and the relationship. Then another person that takes care of got photo,
Yeah.
from uploading to parent queries, from ordering to talking to the lab if there's any problem, and then an army of school photographers.
Yeah. Wow. Fantastic. So you say you acquired a school business? Did you?
Yes.
Right.
So that's another thing that I haven't heard many people speak about, because
No, I was going to say
when you
we haven't had much talk about that. So whatever you've
exactly
got is
when
fantastic.
a, a lot of photographers are trying to grow,
Yeah.
and they think, okay, marketing, talking to schools, that's how you grow.
Yeah.
However, I see a massive opportunity in acquisition, because at some point, every photographer is looking for an exit.
Yes.
And thanks to collaboration now, you kind of know that different businesses at some point want to sell. So if you're in a position in which you still want to continue growing, acquisition is a brilliant way of doing that.
Yeah.
And I was lucky enough to have a company that wanted to exit,
Okay.
and we already had operations in place and we could take on the volume, so we did.
Fantastic. And how big was that business? How many schools?
Around 90 schools.
Wow.
So it was a
Okay.
big jump.
Yeah. And how many schools
It
are you
was a
doing now?
shock. It was a shock to the system.
Yeah. Where'd they come from? How many schools have you now running on the school side of it in total? Then, with that added into what you have?
So we are still there. We are just about 100 at the moment.
Wow. Oh, so that was a massive jump to.
Our retention rate was, because normally when something changes, if something were to go wrong in the year after the acquisition, the school will blame it on the change.
Yes.
So yes, it's the new owners, that's the problem. So you have to try to maintain everything as tight as possible. If it's not broken, do not change it. Not in the first year.
No.
And when we acquire, we also acquire members of staff.
Yes.
And that was very smart, because you maintain the image of the company as well.
Yeah.
And it worked. It really worked.
Yeah. So did you have a time that the previous owner was still within the business to manage a handover?
That was around a month.
Oh, okay, not long.
So it was not a lot.
Right.
But they were really open. It was a company run with 4 partners. So it was tough, because there's not the same thing to manage the expectations of one person, but you have to manage the expectations of 4.
Yeah.
But they were lovely guys, really open. And yeah, it worked really well.
Fantastic. And I mean, something that will be on everyone's tongue that's listening. I don't want to talk numbers so much, but how do you put a value on an existing business? Because we don't necessarily own the schools, do we?
Exactly. When something like a business is sold, like our type of businesses, because, for example, at the moment, I don't even have an office, and that is on purpose.
Yeah.
Because I run everything remotely, so I can keep my costs really low. So you don't have any physical assets that you can value and say, hey, this is the camera that I'm selling you. What you're buying is goodwill. And how do you value goodwill? Because at the same time, you can say, okay, this is the turnover that I did a few years back. However, the way that the previous owner ran the business, not how you run it.
Yeah.
So your cost involved can be different as well. So it's really tough. However, there's 2 ways in which a business like school photography can be valued. One is per head, and one is per EBITDA.
Okay, EBITDA,
which is profits that a business did plus any benefits that the company owner has.
Yes.
In our case, we did per head, because once you already have a business, you know how much per head you can make in your business. So you know how much a head is worth to you.
Yeah. So that EBITDA that you were talking about is
Yes.
is it earnings before income tax and depreciation, I think?
That is absolutely right.
Is
Yeah, well
that-
done.
Yeah.
Thank you for you. Thank
Shout
you.
shout out to
So
James
thanks that
Sinclair
you
for that
said it,
one, for
because I
all
was
of
like,
his
I don't
podcast.
remember what it means.
Yeah, so it's basically the pre-tax profit that you base it on.
Exactly, the pre-tax profit plus any benefit. Let's say if you have a company car or a new salary and any other thing that you can take off the business, that is EBITDA.
Get it. And then you work it out on a multiplier of that, do you, presumably?
Yes. Well, it's not how I did it on my first acquisition. However, normally you work on a multiplier of that, and that it can go from 3 to 5 in average of EBITDA. So that's how you can, if you at some point are looking at an exit in your business, you can say, okay, this is my EBITDA. I know that I can multiply for 3 or 5, and that's roughly how I can sell it for.
Yeah, that makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. And then it's a case of finding the people and listening to podcasts for people that are interested to buy businesses, isn't it?
Anyone is looking to sell,
come to
my
me.
number is there. Please contact me.
Leo Mags will make it work. So yeah, you're right. And that's, we've made no secret that we're absolutely looking at options that way as well to grow the business and take on teams of people that, because there are a lot of owners that are now getting to the point where they're done. It's hard, isn't it? It's hard.
Exactly. I mean, there's so many people, especially these couple of years, that are getting to retirement age, and they build a beautiful business, but they cannot do it anymore.
Yeah.
And instead of just letting it die, which is an absolute shame, they want someone with the capability and the know-how to take care and protect their business and really honor all the history that they have gone through. And that's really hard to find.
Yeah. Well, we took over a relatively small business, 20 odd schools, company locally from here. And the big thing that he said, look, Lee, I want to pass it on to someone that's going to look after my friends, because he's been doing it for 15, 20 years. And they all knew him as the photographer. There wasn't any other photographer in the world as far as these schools are concerned. And he said, look, I just want someone that's going to respect them and give them the care and attention that I have.
That is exactly right.
And actually, it wasn't about money for that particular guy. It wasn't about money for him at all. He's got his money. He's done. He's run a successful business, and he's sort of saying, look, I just don't want to let them down.
Exactly right. Yeah. And if you find those opportunities, they're really, really good.
Yeah. And also, if you when you can keep your word to them people, you end up with friends with lots of experience in the business as well. I wish they're good friends with this guy, and he pops into the schools and does a bit of reading and stuff with them every now and again. And they're saying we're happy, we're really happy. So there are other advantages as well, aren't there, to selling in the business or taking over a business.
As you said, it's a different level of satisfaction that you get from that. It's really good.
Yeah, fantastic. So you're planning to continue to grow? Is that your plan, or you?
Yes, that is the plan. Now the craziness continues, because I think I have a problem. No challenge is big enough for me. So first it was like, oh no, the craziness was jumping from freelancer to business owner of nurseries, then acquisitions, and now I'm looking at America. Because why not?
Yeah, why not? Because there's money in America on photographs, isn't there?
There is a different market. There's a different value of what you do. And the average spend is nuts.
Way,
absolutely nuts.
Way higher.
And even though there's competition and there's quality, there's not that much.
Right. Okay.
So you're like, there's opportunity. And what at first, in my case, was a problem, which was that the acquisition of the schools was far, so it forced me to run it remotely. Now it's a good thing, because either it's 3 hours away or like 12 the other way.
Right, yeah. Doesn't make a difference. Yeah.
You still manage everything by video calls and training stuff remotely.
Okay.
So I already know how to do that, so why not?
Yeah, why not?
So that's the idea. So the idea would be a nice market is Florida at the moment.
Okay.
And even though Life Touch is amazing and incredible there and so big,
Yeah.
it's like Tempest here. The nursery market is not as crowded. So that's
Okay.
what I'm going for.
Like the kindergarten type, is that what they call the
Yes,
kindergarten?
they're called schools there, which is really confusing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, however, yes, it will be before elementary age.
Get it. So are you looking at building from scratch over there, or have you got eyes on businesses you want to buy?
I'm open. I'm open to
You do it all.
everything. So
Build one, buy
their
one.
acquisitions are always possible, and the level of movement that you have is faster because they already have kinetic energy. So you can jump into something that's already moving, but you can also grow from scratch.
Yeah.
And I'm working on both at the same time.
Love that. Fantastic. And have you been out to America and spent time out there?
Yes, I already been twice.
Okay.
And the weather is lovely. That's another thing. Weather is so good. And the thing that surprised me was the numbers quantity of kids per establishment.
Okay.
Here is strange to have a nursery that is over 100.
Yeah.
There, their average is 180.
Okay.
180 kids per
on a nursery,
preschool, we'll say.
Yeah.
And yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And the big chains as well. So if you get one, you get 15, 20.
Get a few of them.
Yeah.
And then I suppose putting your style in over there again is going to be very different, isn't it?
I think I have to learn a lot still of how the market works there because they still do prepay sometimes, and even though customer care here has a high level of standard, they're in particular, they're really particular about the way they want to be treated.
Yes.
So you need a really strong customer care. But they're also used to pay more for the photos.
Yeah.
And when the average here on nursery can be 60-70% of parents purchasing, there is 80-90.
Right. Wow. And I was talking to somebody else about the American market a while ago, and one of the things that we both agreed was actually when you look at the houses in America, the size of the houses that are out there, generally not across the board, but generally they've got an awful lot more wall space in their homes. So when you're selling, you're selling big artwork, yeah, exactly. If you're putting together big artwork that is of stuff that they love, then actually they've got the space to put it on. If you've got a 3-bedroom semi-detached house in the UK, chances are you've got a telly on one wall, and on the others, yeah, or a window. But in the more affluent areas, particularly over in America, they've got just that much more wall space that they can put artwork on.
Everything is bigger there.
Yeah.
Way bigger.
Wow. Yeah. So have you got people out in America that you're working closely with, or you?
Yes, I do. I mean, I already managed to make a few connections with companies that are already working there, and they're super open. So they're not direct competitors.
Yeah.
However, they're really, really open and willing to help in any way they can. So I think in the last 10 years, I have seen how from competition we went to collaboration, which is brilliant because there's a space for everyone to grow, I believe. And we can all learn from each other. And it's also, in a way, healthy competition. We can all raise our standard as we go.
Yeah.
And if not, we will become stagnant.
No, I fully agree with that. A saying I heard a while ago was that a rising tide lifts all ships.
Exactly, and right. I love it.
You think, yeah, you're right. It does. We can work, and the whole reason for doing this podcast, and off the back of the school photography conference recently, just conversations like these that for people to be able to hear and go, actually, I can have a little thing. I picked up an email earlier on. Someone said exactly the same. They said, I've had so many ideas off the back of it, and that's exactly what we all want, isn't it? Yeah, we want to try and. We haven't got all the answers for everyone. We're not pretending to have everyone's answers, but if we can try and make that journey into a school, someone thinking about how they can be a bit more profitable and afford that holiday or afford whatever that bike is for your kids or whatever we're all trying to achieve. Have you got children, Max?
No, not yet. No, but I have 2 very demanding cats.
Yeah, they're as bad. They're just as bad.
So tell me about what do you find are the biggest challenges in the industry? 'Cause, I mean, you're obviously a lady that comes up with solutions, and I love that.
Thanks. Let's see, big challenges. Um, I think staffing has become quite challenging, but not because you cannot find great photographers, but for example, in my case, I have very high expectations of myself, and then
Yeah.
I put those expectations on other people. And that is something that, as a business owner, you have to learn to adjust, because each person has their own weak and strong points. And once you move from photographer to business owner, your job is to put the right person in the right place and
Absolutely.
give them what they need so they can grow and develop. Instead of saying you're doing it wrong or this is how you should be doing it, is leading by example a bit and let them have their own growth and make them feel value and make sure that they have what they need and they build the confidence. For example, you had a few podcasts ago a person that said that was the guy from Spain that put
Andy?
water in his head.
Yeah,
He's
Andy Malloy.
amazing.
Yeah.
He said that
Mr. Potato Head, we call him.
yeah, it's cool.
Right, isn't it?
That he had a member of staff going for the first time and he wanted to show how it is, so he went full on, and the new member of staff almost paralyzed because he thought the standards were so different.
Yeah.
Like, I cannot reach that, because of course we have years of experience and there's so many things in your head because you have been shooting for so long that you have to be a better educator in that sense.
Yeah,
Go
absolutely,
slowly
absolutely
building
true.
up.
Absolutely true. And it is, I mean, the old analogy of it's like driving, isn't it? Is that you don't think about changing gear, you don't think about putting your seatbelt on. But
Exactly.
when I've taken out new photographers, I've tried to say to them, just interrupt me and ask questions. You know, please make
Yes.
sure when we're standing at the camera and you look at something and don't see why I've done it, ask. Because otherwise, if I don't make a real conscious effort to explain it, you just think, oh, well, I'm putting him in height order because of this. I'm changing the uniform pattern because of this, or I'm moving that child because I've just seen that his socks are the wrong colour, so I can't put him there.
Exactly.
But unless you explain that and they don't,
they wouldn't know.
how would they know? How would they know?
Exactly.
And
I really found that helpful when you start to say, I am saying out loud what I'm thinking in my head while I do changes, and that really helps.
Yeah, I was watching. It's a bit different, but I was watching. I think it was either Police Camera Action or it was one of the police car programs. And I was talking to a friend of mine who lives in West Australia. He's in police, and he said part of their test to become a blue light driver is that they have to commentate their entire journey. So they're driving down the road and they're saying what observations they're making. I can see red lights. I can see a school bus. I can see this. And that process, I'm always conscious of that when I'm training new people. I'm always trying to say, right, explain what we're doing rather than just assume that someone sitting next to you sees it, because that allows them to understand what your thought process is, and hopefully become, like say, a better version of what they would become.
Exactly. Yes. Yes,
And
absolutely right.
and you're right that there are. I mean, obviously, Andy pours the water in his head. I've got a guy that works for me. John, he's fantastic. He's known as Mr. Monkey Man because he's got a monkey teddy that he sits on his head. He'll be having conversations with a head teacher with a monkey on his head, and everyone loves it.
Professionalism.
Everyone loves it. Yeah, everyone loves it, and they all know exactly the reaction it gets from the children. But being able to, and that's not going to be for everyone. You know, there's a lot of people that wouldn't be able to pull that off and stand there with a teddy on their head or pour water on them. But everyone's got something, haven't they?
I agree.
Everyone's got their thing, I think. And as long as, I think it's very difficult for us to teach personality.
Yes.
It's very difficult for us to teach empathy. It's very difficult for us to teach awareness of situation.
I've been trying to include in my teachings to new photographers child psychology, because you don't even realize that sometimes you have 3 or 4 seconds when you see the next child on the line to see how he is going to be in front of the camera.
Yeah.
Because you cannot interact in the same way with an extroverted child that with one, for example, that has special needs.
Yeah.
And even within special needs, there's really extroverted and really not.
Yeah.
So having to change your approach child per child really fast is a skill
Really
that
is.
can be learned, I think, but you still need to want to do it.
Yeah. That is something that takes years of
Yes,
of seeing them, reading them, getting it wrong,
Mm-hmm.
and being able to recognise exactly what you say, being able to recognise what words you need to use, what tonality you need to use, what context
You need
you need to.
less personal space or more personal space, or attention on the child, or direct attention to their best friend.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and sometimes that's exactly all it takes. Is that if you, I mean, I quite often, I've had for years, I'll be on the camera, and sometimes I do the raspberry noise, like just a little raspberry noise.
Yeah.
And generally with up to key stage 1, so up to about year 2, this works really well. And if I've got the line next to me or behind, and the child's a little bit nervous, I might make the noise, and I'll, rather than look at that child and say, "Is that you?" make that connection.
Like,
yeah, I will look at the line and generically, who done that? Who's that?
exactly.
And straight away, the child looks to the line as well, and he sees them all smiling. And we all know that the smile is reflective. You smile and it comes back.
Absolutely right.
That all of a sudden he's then more relaxed because you could bump that attention elsewhere. But you're right. The child psychology, and David from Aperture, who was on a couple of episodes ago, he said about how he trains his staff in safeguarding children in school, which is so important and underrated. You know, there's signs up everywhere saying about who the designated safeguard leads are, but if we're in and we're seeing every single child and engaging with every single child, that really we should, as adults and responsible adults in the building, be on the lookout for things to make conversation.
Absolutely right, because that is our job. I think the main part of our job is not taking photos, because cropping right and lighting right is not that hard.
No.
It's creating the reaction in the child that actually will sell our photos.
Yeah.
So
absolutely
that's
right.
the hardest thing to achieve. And if you have 2 potential staff members, and one is a great photographer and the other one can relate really well to kids, you have to see which skill will be easier to train, either to be a better photographer or to be a better entertainer.
Yeah.
And I always link to, I'll teach you the photography.
Yeah.
Because that is easier to teach than to relate properly to a child.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. And I think that's where, that's where our industry is sometimes, in our world, we always say about competition, and we always say that everyone's doing it and we've got people banging the door down for all of our business. But there's a very small portion of the population that give a damn about what this podcast talks about.
Absolutely right.
There's a very small population that are actually doing it. I think because we are in the melting pot and we are seeing it day in, day out, it's disproportionate to the actual number of people that are doing it. And, some wedding photographers, for example, might think, oh, it's easy. We just do school photography. It's just clicking a button. It's boring.
Come, have a look.
Yeah, let's see. How long you survive. But there is so much more to it when you really dig down into the skills, which word you absolutely nailed earlier, the skills that people need with people to be able to be successful is massively underrated.
And I love what you said a few podcasts ago as well about staff photos, because it's always the same.
Yeah.
Have staff member coming in, they dragging their feet, and you can see the dread on their face, and you're like, oh, come on, you're the adult. You should be easier.
Yeah.
Always harder. But I think it's learned, especially in British culture, and the way I try to approach it, because they always say, I look horrible in pictures. Yeah. I'm like, have you ever been photographed professionally?
Yeah.
Because if you don't like yourself in pictures, in photos that people not trained have taken of you, of course you're not going to like it because they're not trained. But if someone knows how to take the best out of you, you might like it. So let's give it a go. But it's very hard to unlearn. And I think you also see the change from primaries to secondaries when everyone becomes really self-aware and the expectations on image are just nuts. And it's about self-love at the end of the day. This is how you look like, this is who you are, and you're good enough. And trying to show that year by year is really important.
He's a. We've I done a recently. I done a headshot job locally here, and there was 27 members of staff there, and they were. It was a mix of office ladies, office girls, managing directors, and then engineers. So you've got all across the spectrum. You've got guys that are absolutely just used to being in Greece. They don't want to be messed about. You've got sort of young girls that are all on social media. You've got the older accounts ladies that are absolutely done with it. And it was really interesting to just see across a demographic of other people than teachers. Well, not all of them, 90% of them, same reactions initially. Oh, I hate having it done. But so what we done is I set it up to shoot directly to the screen. They had a TV in the room that we were in. So we sent directly to the screen, and with a bit of coaching and with proper lighting and being able to pose them, just a tiny little tilt of the head or a tiny little twist of the nose. We're talking micro changes.
Absolutely.
I done exactly that. And I said, right, okay, take one. She took one, saw it on the screen. And then I said, just follow this a little tiny bit, take one. And the initial reaction was just instant. She was like, oh my God.
Oh.
I love it. Done. We're done. Like you don't need to hang around any longer.
Yes.
So I'm considering looking at getting some small backgrounds, some small potentially like grey backgrounds. I'll probably speak to Charlie at Click and look to get some backgrounds. So we actually have a staff headshot station at a school when we do the individuals.
I see. Yes.
With a decent lighting setup that we can literally say, don't worry, you're not going to sit on this bench. You're going to come over here and we're going to do it properly for you. You can see it. You can, again, we talk about the line with the children, don't we? We say about, let's have a little look at the line. If you've got 3 or 4 members of staff in, the lady that looks at herself and doesn't like it, you can guarantee the other 3 that are there are shouting to her about how wonderful she looks, especially if you get it right. They are. You know, if you make that effort to put the hair in the right place, you make that effort to do it as if it were a corporate job that you're charging 50 quid a head for. There's no reason we can't make that effort, is there?
Absolutely. It's our job. It's literally what makes the difference in between average and high quality. And you don't want to be average.
No, exactly that. But again, when we talk about advocates for our business, is that all of a sudden, if you've got a member of staff that's happy to share her photo that a school photographer took on her LinkedIn profile and on her professional profile, and I say her,
it's the highest praise.
Yeah, it is. There's a lot to be gained from us just putting that little bit of extra effort in.
And apart from the end result, I think both kids and adults remember how they felt in front of the camera.
Yes.
And making them feel a bit more at ease by those small changes really makes a difference.
Yeah, exactly that. And actually, you could we go quite deep on these conversations.
Yes, we can.
But I think it needs to be said. It needs to be said. It's but could we be making a really positive change by the year 9, 10, 11s that we work with, making this experience positive for them? That especially when they're comparing to people taking pictures of them eating on their mobile phones and kids all taking pictures on their phones when they're not expecting it and sharing it and laughing and joking. I mean, I've got teenage nieces and nephews, and they'll be sitting there. Take pictures of each other in the worst possible look that they can find, and just share it. And you can understand where this psychology comes from.
Of course, and the dread comes from.
You know, can we make a positive change and for that generation that are going up? And they say, no, I know that a nice picture can be taken. I've got lots that I'm proud of. I'd like to think we can make a little bit of a difference to some.
Because we don't realize that we only see ourselves in the mirror or in photos. So our perception of ourselves can really be some a lie that we're telling ourselves.
Yeah.
So I think it's part of, because sometimes you have beautiful people in front of you, not because they are the standard of beauty, because they don't need to be, because they are not models, but they're beautiful persons.
Yes.
And the fact that they cannot see that, and you can, even though you just met them 30 seconds ago, is really heartbreaking.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And that's, I don't know if it's a society thing, if it's a culture thing, if it's a, in the UK, is it a case that
It's a really
everyone
self-deprecating thing?
Yeah. Is it easier to say something negative before someone else says it? Because that puts me in control. We look at doing the video on this podcast, is that this is what you got. This is what I've been given.
Hi, this is me.
Sorry about that. So yeah, just trying to model that behaviour and say, look, we can if we have to get in front of camera to share the story, so what if a few people look and make a little bit of a negative judgment? That's no problem. But the bigger picture is that it becomes positive.
That happens a lot with mums not wanting to be on the school photo.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's such a shame, because yes, we always talk about the memory of that time, how the child has been changing and blah blah. But you know what child will want? Your child will want to see their mum
100%.
when he was 6.
Yeah, sitting on a lap.
Something I'm trying as well.
Yeah,
bring mums in.
Yeah, exactly. And mum, they come in and the standard reaction is, "Oh no, I don't want to get in. I don't want to get in.
No, I don't want to ruin it." And you're like, "No."
Yeah, you're missing that. Sit down and have fun with him. It's not for you. It's for your child when you're not there anymore. And the thing is that we're all, in 20 years' time, chances are we're all going to look back and go, "God, I wish I looked like
wasn't that bad."
Yeah, I wish I hadn't put that weight on.
Oh, that was so skinny then.
But yeah, and I think you're right. Part of our role is to help people to see themselves in a bit more of a positive light, and ultimately that does come down to the business side of it. But we're not just there to take money off people,
We will be in another industry if we only wanted money.
Yeah, you're right. An easier one.
Yes, for sure.
So what's so you're looking to sort of grow the nursery side, the school side, a bit of all of it? Is that
so there's several things. Maintaining the quality of the bright side is really challenging. Okay. So you have to think where to go first, because if you want to grow in every direction at the same time, something's going to give.
Yes.
So for me, the most important thing is, once you have your workflow perfect, that's when you want to grow. There's something interesting that you said in one of your postcards the other day, which was income growth doesn't necessarily come from growing number of schools, but in doing the schools that you already have better. For example, the brilliant idea of, we can give you commission, or we can give you X plus 20% in value of doing this for you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes, please. Yeah. And also turning those small numbers of, only 80% of parents log into View. How can we make it 100? Or only 60% purchase. How can you make it 70? That really makes a difference. And if you focus on those things and you get them brilliantly, then any growth that comes after that is really more work.
It's got its maximum potential, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So do you, we've got photo at the moment. Are you creating contact sheets after you've done the photographs?
Yes. Normally is the first print, which is on the day of the shoot. The kids take it home and they get lost, they get raped. It happens. Yeah. And then after 2 weeks, we have their first batch closing.
Yes.
And with that batch, we send the second proof, which is one photo of the child at least, so I can at least see one. And hopefully you get a second login.
Yeah. So that's exactly what I was going to suggest.
Different.
We know where we we've done exactly that this term.
Okay,
It's
good.
exactly. So what we
Did that work better than doing it in the quieter period?
so the reason. So what happened this term was last January, we didn't do it with the batch. So we had a situation where one of our printers went down. We ended up running a bit behind, so we had to get everything done and get it out. So we didn't have time to add another thing in. So we sent it in January.
Yes.
That was sorry, that's a lie. So we planned to send it all at the same time. Didn't do that. We ended up sending it in January last year. That meant January we saw our record ever sales in January. Yeah. So last term, the autumn term just gone, we were all systems fixed up and we sent them out as we went. So best autumn term we've ever had by a long way. But then we didn't send out the reminders in January, which actually meant that January dropped a tiny bit.
Yes.
Purely because of that, because we didn't have hardly any jobs in. So and when we've looked at that and gone, hang on a minute, why are sales down in January? That was the obvious part. So we went back to it and we redone any that hadn't. So we didn't do anyone that hadn't logged in. So everyone that had logged in, we didn't resend them. It was only the people that hadn't seen the picture. So no
interesting. Yeah.
So what we do on the batch, when we send it with the batch after 2 weeks, we'll send it where they will get, if they haven't logged in or they haven't ordered. So
haven't logged in or haven't ordered.
Yeah, both of those. So it's non-buyer.
And do you really get many, because that's something that I wrestling with is haven't logged in or haven't ordered. Because if you have logged in, seen the photos, choose not to order, should I really push you again?
Yeah.
But maybe life got in the way, so maybe I should. What do you think?
Yeah, so our thoughts there are exactly that. Maybe life got in the way, or maybe the child logged in. Particular high school.
Yes.
Maybe the child logged in. That doesn't tell us that when we look at our graph data.
Sometimes, if you have an email name weird, like, okay, that's the child. That's not the parent.
you have to dig really deep into it to find that information. But so we said, okay, well, maybe life got in the way. Maybe the child logged in. Maybe Nan's picking him up from school today and she hasn't seen the pictures because Mum logged in and didn't like it. So actually, for the sake of an A5 piece of paper, it's no risk. Or they just couldn't afford it at that time.
Exactly, yes.
Again, we've spoke previously about saying, well, if we give people 2 weeks and say you've got to order your pictures, otherwise you pay an extra amount.
It's a bit tight, yes.
We might be fortunate enough to be in a position to be able to find 20 quid if someone says I need it. But a lot of families we work with can't. So I see it that we're giving them that opportunity to buy it. We're not hounding them, we're not chasing them, we're not putting any pressure on. I do love sending them all out with the orders because it means that every child takes something home.
Takes something home, yes.
That's what we really want. When they're walking out with their pack of photos with mounts and the big packs, people that order the big one, and every other parent's going, oh, I meant to order that. Oh, where's the form? Where's the slip? What have I done with it? Actually, they've got a slip in their bag. So they can easily, it just reduces that friction between them going, oh, that's easier. So we'll see a spike. Sundays are always we always end on a Sunday. Sundays are always our biggest sales day by a long way.
Same.
Because Sunday, Monday, then Fridays for us are our biggest sales days. Monday because they've forgot. And the deadline yesterday. And then Friday.
The discount code closed on Sunday. Can you please extend it to Monday? It's like, okay.
Yeah, I really want my 10%. Okay, no problem. And it matters, but then
it does.
Look, we can sort of laugh about it, but actually sometimes that 10% is the difference. It's the difference between getting it or not.
It's the proof that you care at the end of the day.
Yeah. And we've had occasionally we've had messages from people saying, I really want to order my child's pictures, but the deadline is the 28th.
Could you please give me one more week?
Yeah, I don't get paid until the 2nd. Is there any way you can do it? And that breaks my heart.
You cannot say no.
No, they are people that want their child's pictures, but clearly I don't think anyone's doing that trying to scam us. I think that they are clearly the people that are going, well, I'm trying to budget, I'm doing everything I can, I'm trying to manage it. And we don't send this out to all our schools, but we will often send, we'll often offer to send that parent a pack, or I'll send them a 50% discount code for when they do order, because the greater good that comes from it, we'll say to them that don't share this on social media, don't share it publicly, but I appreciate you reaching out. I understand sometimes times are hard. If we can help you out a little bit with this, then please accept this with the grace it's meant, you know?
And you have to remember that client potentially will be a client for 6 years plus.
Absolutely.
Especially even if you did primary and the secondary.
Yeah. Or they have other
Be
children.
a client for a long time. So it's not a one-off purchase.
No,
They
and that's
have a
exactly
life
it.
history with you.
When we're in schools 3 times a year, we are building up a relationship with
Yes.
these customers.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's not a physical conversation most of the time, but when we look and we see that someone has ordered from us for the last 5 years, we want to give some loyalty back to that.
Mm-hmm.
And say,
Yes.
they're not people that are buying just because they feel they should. They are obviously enjoy what they're getting. And that's, I think, that feeling of, the whole buyer's remorse. We don't want people buying pictures because they feel they should.
No,
because we've all got the skills and capability to create something. What you're doing with your nurseries, let's create something that
it's great value.
They're proud of. Yeah,
exactly. Yes.
And it doesn't cost us much, if any more. You might need some slightly better
just a
equipment.
knee replacement.
Yes, a little chair with wheels on it. So with your just going back to you mentioned on your form that you filled in about AI and about the challenges about the.
I am so passionate about AI. It's always the next thing, and the industry is moving fast. However, technology is just moving incredibly fast, and we have to be careful not to be stagnant. And the new thing is coming, we just don't know what it is.
Yeah.
So imagine a few years back, the first companies that jump from analogic to digital, they had an edge over everyone else.
Yeah.
And something else is coming.
Yeah.
So is that balance in between tradition is very important and is what is keeping our businesses alive. However, how can we add more value?
Yeah.
And now moms are TikTok moms. So you have to give them something that relates to them, because sometimes they don't want to print. They just want a low-res dish that they can upload really, really fast to TikTok.
Yeah.
Sometimes they want that. So it's not always to cater for something that you like, but for what the market wants as well.
Yeah. And often they can't tell you what that is.
Yes, until they're
so busy on so many apps and so many scrolls and there's so much for everyone's attention right now.
Mm-hmm.
That,
yes.
I mean, I hate to think how many times I scroll on TikTok or Instagram throughout the course of the day.
And I have deleted all social apps from my phone, and then I don't get messages. So
swallow you up.
But yeah. But for example, what I'm working at the moment is I'm still looking, and someone knows, please tell me, that some repetitive jobs that if AI were to take over, brilliant. For example, editing.
Yeah.
If we get a program that can crop right every single time on our 3 shots and make them all consistent, it will be amazing. It will be amazing. But then, for example, having an AI system to take over when you have an irate parent sending an email, and you can answer in a professional, not emotional matter, especially with our businesses are so close to our emotions.
Yes.
And especially if you photograph that child and you know how hard it was and how hard you work, and you managed finally to get a beautiful smile out of that child that was 20 minutes crying.
Yeah.
And then the parents really did not like it and say, why do you make my child cry? You're like,
yeah, I stopped it.
I'll tell you what. No, you still have to keep it professional, because it's not about you. It's about business, and it's about understanding, if you were in the shoes of the parent, how bad would you feel that a stranger made your child cry?
Yeah.
And AI works, because sometimes if you're sleep deprived, you cannot take it.
No. Yeah, get up at 3 o'clock and drive in 3 hours.
Exactly. You're like, oh, it was so hard. Yes. Cry on the motorway, that's me.
Yeah. listening to this rubbish podcast.
Yes. Listen to the podcast. You're not alone.
Hang in there. We've got you. If you're still listening.
Yes, we do.
We've
Because
all
that's
been
the
there.
other thing. It's a very lonely industry in the sense that most of the times your equals are actually competitors. So in previous years, it was almost impossible to relate.
Yes.
And yes, you can be friends with other photographers, but it's not the same thing because it's not
Challenges
the
are not the same. They're not the same.
Corporate or weddings. So I think it's so important to have this place because it's really equals.
Yeah.
Because they know how hard it is to wake up 5 a.m. in the morning. They know how hard it is to photograph a child in 30 seconds. They know how hard it is to come back to 50 emails of parents saying,
Printing to stop working, or orders that need to be completed, or schools chasing up and confirming next week.
Or say, no, half term is coming. We need all the prints right now. And you're like,
yeah. I mean, that deadline for half term. We need them before half term. Why? Why do you need them before half term?
And you're like, they're in Royal Mail.
I want half terms so that I can pack them and print them.
Exactly. Yes.
But yeah, I think you're right. I think that being able for people to relate and hear and go, I'm glad I'm not alone here. Actually, I can reach out and,
I'm not crazy. It's validation.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Yeah. Or maybe you are crazy, but we're all a little bit lost.
But we're all crazy together. So no one knows.
So yes, I mean, I think AI, you're right. AI there is a lot of stuff sort of coming. There's a lot of stuff. There's also a lot of stuff that's maybe unnecessary. There's a lot of noise, isn't there? A lot of things trying to pull our attention and going, oh, actually, we can do this and we can do that. And you're probably quite similar to me of going, hang on, what's that? That's interesting. Let's go down that road for a little while. That we try to stay focused on it.
Exactly. It's very hard to go through the noise and not just go for the shiny new thing. Just because it's new and shiny, it doesn't mean it's better. So yeah, it's very hard to separate.
There's a difficult road down the middle between tradition and between innovation and between ideas and going, okay, this is a great idea, but it might be a great idea, but is it going to be profitable? Really, ultimately, we've got to look at that. Is it either beneficial to our schools? Is it beneficial to our staff? Or is it profitable to the business? If it's not any of them, it's just
exactly, or it's just a fancy new thing that I wanted just to boost my ego because I have it.
Yeah.
No.
I think that's a lot of that in the photography world is equipment as well, isn't it? We hear it all the time.
Oh yes, it's not about the gear, guys.
What's the new camera? What's the new camera? Like the one that you've used for years that's still paying you and still earning.
Exactly. Your phone, even though people won't like hearing this, your phone is better than the camera that Cartier-Bresson had. So no.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's about the person that is behind the lens that can make that happen and beautiful light.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
Yeah. So when you're doing your nurseries, do you have a multiple light setup? Or do you have one light?
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 3 plus a reflector. So yeah, I got to be complex. I have hair life. Oh no, there's 4.
Okay.
There's hair light. There's main light, fill, hair, background light.
Right. Wow. And so do you like if you're using if you're using the nursery setting, for example, are you lighting the background whatever you're shooting against?
Yes, I am. So because if not it gets too dark. Again, because I do high speed sync.
Of course.
To try to avoid any natural light coming in from anywhere. Right. I control absolutely everything. If I didn't light the background, it would be like really dead. Yeah. So you need to light it a bit. Yeah. As well.
Right.
It's a more complex setup, but that's the point in that business in particular. It has to be something that the parents cannot do.
Yeah.
And the good thing about high-speed sync is sometimes, especially in nurseries, the parent really wants to be there and it's behind you with a phone. And sometimes out of just the excitement of the moment, they take out the phone and like, and you cannot just stop interacting with a child, turn and say, put your phone away.
Yeah.
But if you're shooting high-speed sync and there's no background, what they can get is nothing in comparison to what you will get. So you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely. When we do sort of football tournaments or when we do various stuff that we might use green screen on, for example, or extraction. Then
perfect.
We try and do all of that sorts of stuff just to combat exactly that. The mobile phone. You can't tell them not. I mean, you can in a setting, but
You can try, but it's
it's
a lost
awkward, isn't
fight.
it?
Yeah.
Especially if you've got a sign up that says please no mobile phone photography,
Mm-hmm.
or the school have got a policy, then we've tried to put that in place. But sometimes, like you say, they get in the moment and they go with it. But when there's a whole case of what they see versus what you create, and the
Mm-hmm.
world's different,
Exactly.
instantly there's your value proposition, isn't it? That's
Yeah,
why
and you
I'm
can see
here.
that going.
Yeah,
And it's horrible to say, but the best thing that can happen to me is making a mummy cry.
yeah, you're right.
It's
You're
just
right.
so good.
Yeah, tears because they've never had it done. And what you're also creating in doing the stuff that you're doing with the nursery is getting those youngsters trained in front of the camera. So when they get to reception and reception in year one,
Yeah, they
they might
absolutely
just
love it.
have a little bit of a better opportunity at
And
enjoying.
it's so rewarding because sometimes you see babies that were really scared of you, and by the time they get to preschool and their personality really comes out, and you're like, oh my days, you are really ready for the big school. And they remember you, they remember your name, they remember your monkey, they remember your tricks. Some kids, I need to change my tricks. Some kids really remember my tricks after 3 years, and they're like, oh, but you forgot the bubbles. He got the bubbles, my bubbles. But, oh, right, yes. Whoops.
You got any new jokes, mister? What's going on?
Yes, you do. Although there's something that I really like about the routine.
Yes.
So they know what is coming next,
Yeah.
and they expect it. That's why having 3 or 4 kids really helps, because they know what's going to happen and it's going to be enjoyable. So yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, there's nothing to worry about, nothing to be scared
Yeah.
of. And are you going into your nurseries 2 times a year or once a year?
It
How do you
really depends on the performance of the nursery.
Okay.
Sometimes having it once a year makes it really special. So
Yes.
you have to get the photos now, because this is your chance, mom and dad.
Yeah.
But in some of the nurseries, I do it twice a year, and I give something completely different at
Okay.
Christmas time. And in order to be consistent with the brand, I don't like the super Christmassy Christmas.
Yes.
Especially because there's many kids that don't celebrate Christmas.
Yeah, very true.
So you need to keep it neutral but Christmassy.
Yes.
Which is a challenge, especially if you change it every year. But some been slightly different, some sparkly lights and some light colors. It won't offend anyone,
A little
but
bit
it's
red and gold.
still
Yeah.
Christmassy enough, and like lifetime Christmas. As in, it's not a trend that will be that year, and then when they are grown up, they'll be
Yes.
they dress me up like that. No.
What is that
It will
candy cane
still
for?
be valuable.
Yeah, that is a really, really refreshing. I'm now going to have to look at our nursery side. Of it.
Whoops.
We need this. Yeah, sorry to all my photographers. Things are changing. Yeah, but it makes complete sense. It makes complete sense to be able to just create that new. And are you shooting on a fixed lens, or have you got you shooting on zoom lens? You fixed and you moving?
I'm shooting fixed because you don't have time to zoom.
No.
So I'm normally 50 or 85 because really I like tight portraits, because again if it's 1.8, the bouquet will look so much better. But that means you have to move.
That's the knees.
Fast.
That's where the knees go.
Exactly. So you have to move so fast. You have to go.
Yeah.
And you get variations of height, where the camera is pointing at, and slightly different angles really fast, because sometimes child will smile once at your trick. He will not smile again.
Yeah. Wow. It's such a different way. And are you bringing that into schools, or are you doing schools on a more traditional style?
I'm doing schools in a more traditional way because
it's hard. It's hard to do it differently.
It's easier to do it. It's easier to do nursery style in schools.
Yeah.
But it's not as appreciated.
No.
Because in a nursery, we are almost a class. Yes. And what's happening is an entertainer is coming and is filling the day with something fun to do.
Yeah.
In a school, we're an inconvenience that we need to move fast and leave.
Yeah.
So if you start being loud, because I can get really loud, if you start being loud and blowing bubbles and monkeys and
Get them all hyped
really
up.
loud jokes and singing songs, that can really, I mean, I can rile up a crowd really easily. And then a teacher will pop their head, it's like, I'm sorry, you're disturbing my lesson. You're like,
Yeah, I'm really sorry. I've got to teach these phonics for the next 2 hours, and they already
exactly.
don't want to do it.
And then in nursery, you have to bring them up. But normally in primary, you have to keep them at a level that they don't go nuts.
Yeah.
Because, they will destroy the school.
Yeah, of course they will. Yeah.
So it is that balance. Is that
Yeah.
balance that it depends also on the style of schools. Some head teachers will really appreciate that, and some head teachers were like, yeah.
We want you done and gone.
Yes.
We don't want you here. Parents are pressuring us to have a photographer.
No, stand still.
Move.
Stand still, look better. Like, okay.
We've got a school that won't even let us do a fun class group picture. They say that is not our school, that is not our style. We want formal, and we want proper, and we want tidy.
Exactly.
There's no point sending your most jovial fun photographer in there.
No.
That is a button click.
So at the end of the day, you do have your brand, but you are a guest in the establishment. So you have to go by the rules.
Yeah. Wow, I love it. So what would you love to see sort of change in industry wise? Have you got
taxes?
Yeah, tell me about it. Bloody hell. Yeah, we don't VAT. Yeah, I mean,
please
don't do the maths on that. I was talking to a guy from the United Arab Emirates actually, and he couldn't believe it. He just went, "You lot are mad.
Yes.
What are you doing?"
Yes.
That has got to be a place to set a business up, hasn't it? It's
that's another possibility.
Yeah, we'll talk about that another time. Absolutely. Yeah, we'll have a flight over and look at it.
Let's do it. Then.
Yes. But the costs are. Nobody sees the costs today.
No, they don't.
And I don't think parents realise the costs that are involved to get their prints to them.
Not at all. I think the perceived value of a school photo in the culture is, this is how much I'm going to spend.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter the quality.
Yeah.
This is how much I'm going to spend. You cannot charge £200 for a school photo.
No.
Even if the same parent will pay the same as in £300 or £400 for a studio shoot.
Yeah.
They would do that.
Yeah.
But even if you give the same quality in a school setting, they will not pay. They cannot. It's just a perception. So that's one thing I would like to change, but you cannot change the market that you're in. You can just adapt to that market.
Yeah. But I mean, well, individually you can't. Collectively we can. Collectively we potentially could. We could look at saying, okay, well, look, this is now, it doesn't take, I mean, we look at the white background class groups that came in the first time that they started coming in, the panoramic class groups. Someone somewhere said, yep, this is what I'm going to do. And the industry moved that way. It became a thing. So, could it be, do you do family days or anything like that for schools?
I haven't found a way to make them profitable.
No. Yeah, because again, coming into that school setting.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. Again, the perceived value is the same as a school photo.
Yeah. So I mean, if anyone listening does do school, someone said to me the other day that they've got a friend that all he does is he does family afternoons and family days.
Please get in touch. Tell us what's the trick, because I haven't been able to find a way. No,
it's just because I think they do associate it with exactly what you've just said. It's just a school photo, even if it could become the nicest set of family photos they've ever had taken.
I think if you were to take your clients and offer an in-studio away from the school, that could potentially work, because again, it's a different perceived value. But if it is in the school and you still have to give away commission and blah blah blah.
Yeah. Actually, I was talking to a lady, Jenny Barnard. This is a public shout out to come on my podcast and talk about your studio. They feel their studio from school clients. When I spoke to her a couple of years ago, she was saying that they'd put an offer in. Forgive me if I got it wrong, but I'm pretty certain they'd put an offer in with anyone that's ordered with a discount code for their studio, the high street studio,
and that
Yes.
brought people into that. We haven't really pushed for that too much, to be fair, but I'd love to
Same
do
thing. I
more of
haven't
that.
really pushed for that. I'm looking for any studio available. Please let me know. But yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, love it. Well, Megs, we are an hour and 20 minutes in. This has been
Goodness.
fantastic. Thank you. Thanks for all you've shared. Like, I didn't know what to expect. Obviously, we don't know a huge amount about each other, but really, really inspired by some of the stuff that you're doing.
Good.
And
I'm glad.
and I think you've thrown a lot of ideas into people's minds now. If they're just pulling up at McDonald's, ready to start a school shoot, and
Yay.
15 minutes early, now's your
And I
time to
have to
start
say,
looking at.
from my side, I have to really thank you because you're a beacon of the industry and you're really helping everyone, and that really talks volume, not of who you are as a professional only, but who you are as a person. So thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Very kind of you. But we're trying to have conversations, see if we can make a bit of a positive difference, and like you say, hopefully we can all somehow level up a little bit and
Exactly.
keep our businesses
Bring it
running.
on.
Bring it on. So, Max, you've been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we will definitely stay in touch and maybe build a business in Dubai.
Perfect. Pleasure.
Love it. Thank you so much.